all across the country. I was in D.C. yesterday, in Arizona this morning, and here I am with you. I feel that it's more urgent than ever to be able to get truth out in front of people. Yeah. And I think that right now, we as a country are seeing what happens when good people decide to do nothing, and when certain good people, such as yourself, Jack, and your congregation start to stand up for truth. So look, I'm processing this in real time like all of you, and I'm starting to realize a couple things. The first of which is this. What's happening tonight in the churches across America, this is going to be the salvation of our country. It really will. That's right. The church is the key to the moral order of a civil society. And there's a reason why they want to keep the churches closed. There's a reason why they don't want you to be able to congregate. It's because as soon as all of you start to attend and you listen to the greatest, most important book ever to exist in the history of the world, when you start to understand the teachings of Jesus Christ, when you start to understand that our rights are natural, that come from God, not from government, all of a sudden Gavin Newsom means a lot less in your world. All of a sudden... And maybe it also opens and liberates conversation. Maybe all of a sudden you realize that it's going to be free people in a free society that are going to come across to the best solutions, not these bureaucratic, top-down orders that have just so much harm and pain and suffering on people across the country that I've seen, Jack. And I'll tell you this, that as the churches start to reopen, I'm starting to see it. Pastors are starting to follow, because it takes leaders like Jack to pay the price, and he goes forward, and then people start to follow. And we're starting to see, in my opinion, a tonal shift in our country in the last couple weeks. Even in the last couple days, I can feel it. All of a sudden, people are, and I felt the Holy Spirit here tonight, I think you do as well, where all of a sudden, look, the forces of darkness are going to strike their hardest right before truth is really going to spread and win. That is when the forces of darkness are going to do their full frontal offensive. And boy, have we seen that in the last couple weeks, in the last couple months. And what I'm telling you, I am bringing you, I believe, very good news that we are close to something that is so righteous and good and true, where I think we're going to have a revival in our country, the likes of which we have never seen. I truly believe that.
I do believe that. Yeah. Charlie, you said something on one of your recent podcasts, I think it was with Eric Metaxas. You made mention of the fact that, which was fantastic, that the rioting, the pillaging, the protesting that's going on in the streets, and the correlation between that and the churches being sequestered.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really puzzling thing for me why some people are confused about this. They say, why is it that so many people are angry and looking for meaning? I say, well, it's because you closed the churches down, man. I mean, church is more than just flipping on your TV at 10:30 in your pajamas in the living room. Church is the ecclesia, the gathering of believers. It's you turning to your friend and saying, how you doing? And they say, honestly, I'm not doing well. Right. I need you, and I needed that message today. And what we have been led to believe is now church is nothing more than a digital consumption exercise, where church is a 24/7, 365 institution, where it's brothers helping believers, helping sisters, helping people in need. And so then we remove that, and I asked Jack this today, and I said, on average, how many people come to Christ on Easter Sunday? And he says, anywhere probably between 100 to 150, maybe even more. On an Easter Sunday, the most important day that we celebrate as Christians, for good reason. They stole that from us, and we let them. They stole Easter Sunday from us, and I think to myself, my goodness, how many millions of lost souls out there would have become Bible-believing Christians on Easter Sunday if the churches would have remained open? How many people would have dropped down their idolatry of fake witness and said, Jesus, come into my life? Yeah. And yet the secular humanist Statist said, keep your church closed because I told you so. And then all of a sudden we wonder why in late May we see a destruction of civil society because, oh my gosh, we forgot that it was the church that built civil society.
That's right.
And when civil society starts to crumble and you don't have the singular thing that founded that very civil society, it should be a rather logical thing. Maybe you should open the institution that gives people meaning and gives them an understanding what responsibility is and a connection to the Almighty and the sacraments of communion. And so there's a direct connection there. And I think there's a reason for it. It's because the statists understand, and the people that want to control you, because that's what this is about. This is about power. They want government to become God. They want white fragility to become the Bible. They want the 1619 Project to be more well-versed in the teachings of Matthew. And if you think I'm joking, just step into a public school in LA Unified School District and you'll see exactly what I mean. They know that if they can hurt the church, if they can weaken the church, then all of a sudden they will replace man's search for meaning with government becoming that deity, with Nicole Hannah-Jones from the New York Times becoming the next philosophical leader where she just spouts garbage and nonsense professionally every single day. And so we have to understand very clearly, and you've done such a great job of this, Jack, and I'm inspired by you, and you're a hero for this, which is we are not going to allow tyranny in our country to exist any longer, whether it be Gavin Newsom, whether it be the little micro-tyranny. And here's a really important point, is that we should protest and recall Gavin Newsom. And he's a coward. He's not, what is he going to do? I mean, come on. I mean, he really is a very weak person. And no, I mean this. And I pray, I truly do genuinely pray for him. And where he prioritizes Planned Parenthood abortion clinics and marijuana dispensaries over the body and blood of Jesus Christ. And he argues the church is not essential, and I think that's actually a wrong phrasing, by the way. I think a better way to phrase it and ask, is salvation essential? It's not just essential, it's like the only important thing, right? I mean, the idea of essential is somehow there's a hierarchy of something more important than salvation. And so, look, Gavin Newsom, he says, well, I might arrest people. I say, well, you won't be the first Christian to pay a price for what is good and what is right and what is true. And so if they come arrest Jack, come arrest me alongside of Jack, because I'll tell you what, it's about time Christians start standing for something in this country. And here's the one thing is, make no mistake, this is a social conditioning exercise where they're trying to see how far they can push us, right? Right. They're trying to see, oh, wow, the Christians won't speak if we take Easter and Palm Sunday from them. They won't speak out if we take Pentecost from them. They won't speak out if month after month after month, all of a sudden, the physical institution of the church and the gathering, the ecclesia of believers mean nothing. But the moment that someone like Jack Hibbs or Rob McCoy says, oh, no, come arrest us, they're like, oh, yeah, just kidding, sorry. And by the way, they might storm through this right now like Mao's Red Guard with their little red book and the Praetorian Guard. And guess what? Jack and I will say, fine. Part of the doctrine of civil disobedience is we will pay the price, but you are going to have a couple thousand very angry local people that are not going to like that.
They're voters.
And they vote and they pay taxes. And the silent majority won't be silent much longer. And they are betting that our decency translates into apathy. And I can tell you this, there is a lot of green space between us being decent and us being indecent. And I'm telling you, I will never think we should get to indecent, but that doesn't mean we have to be quiet. It's a very important thing. It's an incredibly important distinction. Because, and I truly believe this, some Christian pastors have been emailing me privately and say, Charlie, what do I do? And I say, in some ways, why don't you surrender anything that is earthly for the divine truth to be able to bring people to Jesus Christ? And they say, I might lose my church. And I say, well, first of all, you probably won't, probably. But even if you do, if you fight for what is right and for what is good and for what is true, isn't that what we are called to do every single day?
Every day. Every day.
And so, and what the great irony of this entire thing, and it kind of reminds me of some of the people in the Republican Party where I've tried to find to see if they have a spine, and I can't quite figure out if they do or not, which is the great irony, and I'll do the connection in a second, is that this church has never flourished like it has now, it has never grown, because people right now in times of chaos are looking for order, they're looking for truth. Churches that actually stand have record attendance, record tithing, record conversions, record salvation, record amounts of people that are looking for that meaning. And so, I'll tell you what, as Ernest Hemingway said, this is going to happen gradually then suddenly. Mm-hmm. The bad guys are going to be on the run very quickly as soon as reasonable and decent people stop being the silent majority and the vocal majority. It's going to happen very, very quickly.
Charlie, we've got radical civil unrest in many of the West Coast cities, the key cities. Just the other day, Jerry Nadler, when asked about the pillaging and the rioting of Portland, Oregon, Nadler said that Antifa and that action is a myth. Yeah, it's not happening.
You know, it's so incredibly Orwellian what's happening right now, and if you don't know, if you haven't read 1984 or Animal Farm, I encourage you to do it. It's like reading the LA Times. It's happening in real time. And let me explain to you how Orwellian thinking works. It was written by George Orwell in the 1950s. Orwell was a socialist until he wasn't, because he actually realized what that nonsense backwards worldview actually believed. His most famous quote with socialism, I just love it, it's so perfect. Orwell said, "Socialism is much more about hating the rich than helping the poor." I said, that is just perfect. And so Orwell wrote 1984, and in it he talks about that even worse than a lie, there's something that can be called doublethink or doublespeak or newspeak. So here's how it works, and this is what's happening with Jerry Nadler and the left, where it's much worse than them lying to us. So let's pretend Jack is eating some cookies here, and I go up to Jack, I say, "Jack, how many cookies have you eaten?" And he says, "I've only eaten 3. He really ate 10. That would be a lie, right? Here's how doublespeak works. I go up to Jack and I say, "Jack, how many cookies have you eaten?" And he's got crumbs all over his face and cookies. And he says, I haven't eaten any cookies." "You have." No, trust me, I've eaten no cookies. I promise, no cookies." "No, you've eaten all the cookies. In fact, you're also a racist." Like, "What? No, I'm not." Like, "No, I promise." He's like, "Shut up and take a knee. I've never eaten cookies. You're also a bad person, and your country is awful." Like, "No, I promise, I haven't eaten cookies." And you start to think to yourself, well, what kind of bizarre thing? And that's doublespeak, and it's 1984 dystopianism, and he prophesies it perfectly. And look, it's really, in 1 Timothy, what's the exact verse? To live quiet and peaceable lives, right?
God tells us that he wants us to pray for the king and those that are over us in authority, that what's the reason? That we might live a quiet and peaceable life.
So not Portland, basically.
Not Portland, not Seattle, not LA.
I was reading that the other day. I said, my goodness, he was telling us to live lives like whatever's not happening in downtown Seattle and the former country that used to be called Chaz or Chop or whatever that wonderful experiment was, which really